Hey guys, Cracking the Throttle here, and today I'm going to be going over 5 big mistakes when switching from street riding to dual sport or adventure riding. Many of the concepts may seem very familiar transitioning to the dirt, but sometimes the application of certain skills may differ or be applied in different scenarios versus on street. As a guy in his 30s, I decided to make the switch about a year ago. I rode a lot of dirt bikes and quads as a kid, all the way up through high school, and like many of us, I got that motorcycle license in my early 20s and was strictly street from then on out. I'm hoping that these tips may lower the learning curve and hopefully save you some money in the process. Alright, let's get into it. So the first thing we're going to go over is going to be selecting your bike, which may seem simple and easy, but selecting your bike is a big task. A lot of people start doing a bunch of research. They're looking around on YouTube, all of a sudden they see Paul Torres and he's jumping a T700 over a 6-foot wall, and boom, I'm going to get the biggest, most powerful bike because it can do everything and anything. If you are transitioning into ADV or dual sport riding, you want to select a bike that's going to fit your stature. You don't want a bike that's too big or too powerful. When you get out on the road, you do have a lot more time to think because traffic's flowing in the same direction and you have a lot of time to respond, whereas the weight of a bike can really hinder your movement off-road in a low-speed setting, which in turn could put you in a very precarious situation very quickly. For example, riding along a ledge, losing balance because the bike is too large for you, and being unable to control that and tumbling down the high side of a hill. And the last part of this is to consider the cost of replacement parts, because these bikes are going to go down. They're going to get scratched up, and things like the DRZ 400 or TW 200 tend to have lower costs associated with those low speed crashes than some of the higher end bikes such as the KTMs or Huskies. And to sum it up, what I want to say is pair your bike to the style of riding you intend to perform and based off your skill level. I'll let you make that judgment call, but just keep that in the back of your mind when selecting your motorcycle. And number 2 on this list is going to be selecting your gear. Gear from dirt and street riding is vastly different, and a lot of people think that they can reuse a lot of their street gear when doing dual sport or ADV riding, and this is far from true. This circles back around to selecting the type of riding style that you wish to pursue and matching the gear to that riding style. If you're going to be doing more hardcore off-road riding, MX style gear might be the way you want to go, whereas if you're going to be doing a hybrid of on-road and off-road adventure riding across multiple states or through state parks, you can go with this ADV gear that's going to give you more protection for the street. Keep in mind that for every benefit, there is a drawback to gear. There's no gear that can do absolutely everything. Either it's going to provide more protection at the cost of body heat or being uncomfortable, or vice versa. So you need to decide what is important to you and what is going to work for your riding style. My last caveat to this is going to be about boots. When you are doing any type of ADV or dual sport riding, please do not use street gear. These boots do not offer the same protection as do adventure riding and MX style boots. They come up higher on the calf and offer a level of protection for your ankle and lower extremities that street boots just are unable to provide. This moves us on to number 3 on the list, which is going to be body positioning. Now, I'm not going to be able to go over everything about body positioning for off-road in this video, but this is just going to give you ideas and concepts maybe to think over and do more research on. I will be doing videos at a later time delving into some of these concepts and explaining them further, but for now, we'll start off with counterweighting. When you ride on the street and you go through a turn on a motorcycle, typically you're going to put your weight to the inside of the turn, and this is going to keep you in the contact patch of the tire, and that is going to provide traction for you to go around your turn. A big misconception I had was that this would translate to off-road riding. It does not. I have tried it. You will end up low-siding and sliding out. The difference is, on the road, you're at a higher rate of speed, and your contact patch is going to provide your traction. Whereas in off-road, you need to lean the bike into the center of the turn and counterweight your body in an upright position almost towards the outside of the turn. This provides the counterweight, which drives the bike upward as it's leaned into the turn, driving downward. It also applies a downward force on your contact patch and allows you to stay in a neutrally balanced position for you to navigate the turn at low speed. Next in this category is going to be standing up on the bike, getting on those pegs and off of your butt. When riding on the street, very rarely do you have to stand up on the bike. Most of the time you're in a seated position, you're very relaxed, and the body input is not nearly as intense as it is in the off-road world. What standing allows you to do is separate the momentum from the bike and your body. You want to be in a position where your knees are slightly bent and your elbows are pointed upward. This is going to absorb a lot of the momentum that is driven from the bike. For example, as you go over a bump or an obstacle, the rear of that bike will kick up. If you are in a seated position, it wants to drive your body mass upward and over the front of the bike. Keeping this standing position allows your body to be separated from that and allows you to provide almost an independent suspension of that of the bike, and allows you to move independently of that to maintain your balance. Standing also provides a great way to do what's called weighting your pegs. And what weighting your pegs means is shifting your body weight onto your left or right foot in order to navigate through obstacles. I won't go into detail much further in this video because this could be a whole video on its own, but just know that weighting your pegs could be the difference between traction to get up a hill or losing traction. So to sum up this section, what I can say is that more body input is needed overall for off-road riding than there is for on-road riding. Some of the concepts may differ, but overall you're going to work muscles that you have not worked before while riding on the street. So this is something to take into consideration and to make sure that you're aware of before you go out and hit these trails and get yourself hurt. Next up on the list, we're going to be talking about clutch control. Now again, this could be a whole video segment on its own, but I'll go over some of the basics and again, just broad overview concepts for you guys to consider when making this switch. When riding on pavement, most of the time, your clutch control is only going to come into play on starts and on stops. When you take off from your bike to accelerate from a stop sign, or when you're coming up to a stop sign and pulling the clutch in to get down into neutral or whatever gear you desire. This will vastly differ in off-road riding. You are constantly going to be modulating the clutch in order to find your traction levels and make the bike perform how you want it to perform. I'll keep this very short and simple by saying do some research, and additionally go out and practice. Get into a parking lot, get onto a gravel road, and feather that clutch. Find where your power comes into play on the release of your clutch, and at what point you can modulate that clutch to maintain traction on things like a gravel road or on dirt. Because smooth operation of the clutch in off-road riding is going to allow you to maintain a level of control that you haven't had to maintain before while riding on the street. And finally, guys, we're going to get right into it. Number 5 on the list is going to be planning your rides. When riding on the road, you are typically familiar with your environment, and even if not, you have indications such as road signs or road closures. These things are a luxury that you do not have while riding off-road. Consider planning your ride with things such as maps, GPX files, and even riding with a buddy to keep a level of safety. One of the biggest pieces of advice that my father taught me and I try to pass on to other people is never go down a hill you can't get back up. And this can actually be applied for basically any obstacle, because sometimes these trails are shut down and you have to go back the way you came. So make sure your skill level allows for you to do that. So there we have it, guys. 5 things to consider when transitioning from street to dirt riding. Hope this helps you guys out, makes your transition a little bit smoother. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and if you have any comments, shoot them down below. And if you stayed this long, I have a silly little clip of me eating some dirt and me and my pops playing some dual sport Morse code, as I call it. Check it out. Thanks for watching.